The significant tornado parameter over southern Wisconsin today is forecast to reach 10. In plain terms, that is a reading meteorologists associate with the worst spring tornado outbreaks on record, and it is happening in the middle of June. An enhanced risk covers Chicago, Milwaukee, and Des Moines right now, the second straight day of a locked pattern that keeps reloading. In the next few minutes, I'll show you exactly when today's storms hit, why this morning's were the most dangerous, and how this ends. Let's get into it. The most dangerous day of this severe weather outbreak is today. As this report publishes, the Storm Prediction Center has an enhanced risk of severe weather in effect, a level 3 out of 5 across the upper Midwest and Great Lakes, and it covers northern Missouri, the Des Moines area, Chicago, Milwaukee, and central Michigan. Yesterday was the opening round. Today the risk has shifted south and east, the ceiling has risen, and the forecasters are telling you plainly that the worst of this multi-day stretch is the day you are now in. Let me be precise about what is on the table because the word storm does not capture it. We are looking at destructive straight-line winds of 60 to 90 miles per hour, hail larger than 2 inches across, and strong tornadoes, all over the same corridor at the same time. That corridor holds tens of millions of people. Chicago, Milwaukee, Madison, Des Moines, the Quad Cities, Detroit. These are not empty stretches of the map. They are some of the most heavily populated land in the interior of the country, and the most favorable part of the atmosphere is setting up directly over them. Consider what that means for the people in the path. Yesterday's storms were the opening round of this pattern, and many of those communities are already cleaning up, already without power in places, already tired. Today, the atmosphere reloads on top of them, and the part of the country in the center of the risk is the part least likely to expect a tornado in June. That combination, a primed atmosphere and a public with its guard down, is what makes a mid-June outbreak so dangerous. The storms are not responding to the calendar, they are responding to the conditions in the air today, and the conditions in the air today are as favorable as they get. Here is the single most important thing to understand in the next 30 seconds, because it changes how you should treat the entire day. This is not one storm that arrives, does its damage, and leaves. This is a pattern. A locked pattern that fires, resets, and fires again over the same ground. And today is the day it peaks. Yesterday, it produced an enhanced risk over the upper Mississippi Valley. Tomorrow, it pushes into the northeast. On Saturday, a new system takes the southern plains. The danger is the repetition, and you're standing in the middle of it. There is one more reason today is more dangerous than the calendar suggests. It is the middle of June. By now, most people have stopped watching for tornadoes. The spring season feels over, attention has moved to summer, and that is exactly when a setup carrying spring-grade ingredients becomes hardest to warn people about. The atmosphere does not consult the calendar, and today it is doing something in June that belongs to April. The question that defines the next 18 hours is what shape it takes, and that starts with a single number. There's a number on the forecast maps today that stops meteorologists cold, and it sits right over southern Wisconsin and northern Illinois. It is called the significant tornado parameter, and today it is forecast to reach 8, 9, and even 10. To understand why that matters, you need to know what the number is and what those values mean. The significant tornado parameter is a single index that blends together everything a violent tornado requires. It folds instability, low-level moisture, the lift that gets storms going, and the wind shear that makes them rotate into one figure. When that number climbs to 1, 2, or 3, forecasters are already paying close attention because that signals an environment capable of producing significant tornadoes. Values of 8, 9, and 10 are not in that category at all. Those are the readings you associate with the worst spring tornado outbreaks on record. And they are being forecast for the middle of June, directly over a densely populated corridor. The engine behind those numbers is a low-level jet, a river of fast-moving air a few thousand feet above the ground, and this morning it is forecast to reach 70 knots over central Iowa. That is roughly 80 miles per hour of wind just overhead before most people are awake. A low-level jet that strong does two things at once. It pumps warm, moist, unstable air northward at high speed, which is the fuel, and it creates a sharp change in wind speed and direction with height, which is the rotation. An ordinary thunderstorm sitting in that environment does not simply rise. It begins to turn. Above that, the mid-level jet stream is running 60 to 80 knots, which is unusually strong for this time of year. By mid-June, the jet is normally weakening and retreating north as summer settles in. This one has not. That is the detail that elevates today from a routine round of summer storms into a potential outbreak. And it is the part of this situation that genuinely was not expected. Strong tornadoes need that organizing wind, and today the atmosphere has supplied it in a month that usually does not. The next thing you need is the timeline, because today moves fast and it starts early. Most severe weather waits for the afternoon, when the sun has heated the ground and built the energy. Today does not wait. Storms are forecast to initiate as early as 3 to 4 o'clock this morning near Omaha, in the dark, while most of the region is still asleep. By about 6 o'clock, those storms are expected to grow upscale into a line capable of destructive winds of 60 to 85 miles per hour near Des Moines. Riding along with that early activity is a warm front, lifting north across Iowa, and that boundary is the focus for the strongest tornado threat of the morning. The Storm Prediction Center has specifically flagged the morning line for strong tornadoes along the Interstate 80 corridor between Des Moines and Davenport. By the middle of the morning, that intense line is expected to reach Rockford and Madison, still carrying both the wind and tornado threats with it. Then comes the part of the day that requires the most attention. Through the afternoon, the warm front becomes the focus again, and any supercell that forms along it near Madison and Milwaukee will carry an elevated tornado threat. As the evening rush hour approaches, the storms are expected to organize into a large line stretching from Oklahoma City up through Davenport and into Wisconsin. That line then pushes east into the evening, carrying significant damaging winds into Michigan, Indiana, Illinois, southern Missouri, and Oklahoma before it finally weakens overnight. I want to flag one thing about the structure of today, because it is where people get caught. After the morning line moves through, there will likely be a lull. The sky may clear. It will feel like the threat has passed. It is not. That midday lull is not the end of the day. It is the reload, the hours in which the sun reheats the surface and the atmosphere recharges for the afternoon and evening rounds. Treat the calm as the intermission, not the conclusion. And the most dangerous window of all already happened in the dark, which is worth stopping on. The timing of this morning's storms is not a minor detail. It is one of the most dangerous features of the entire event. Tornadoes that strike at night and before sunrise kill more than twice as many people as tornadoes that strike during the day, and the reasons are simple and they stack on top of one another. The first reason is visibility. In daylight, a person can look to the southwest, see the wall of cloud, see the rotation, and act on what they see. Before dawn, the most violent storm on the continent is invisible until it is lit by lightning, and by then, it is already on top of you. The second reason is that people are asleep. A warning does no good if it cannot wake the person it is meant to protect. The third reason is that the informal daytime safety network, the spotters and the neighbors watching the sky, is not operating in the dark. That is why the single most useful action you can take today is to make sure you have a way to receive a warning that can physically wake you. A weather radio that sounds an alarm is the standard. If you do not have one, set your phone to allow emergency alerts with the volume override enabled, so a tornado warning sounds even if the phone is silent. It takes 2 minutes, and in a pre-dawn event, it is the difference between minutes of warning and none. The warm front is the reason the morning carries such a tornado risk in the first place. Along that boundary, the winds change direction sharply over a very short vertical distance, and that change is precisely the ingredient that storms concentrate into rotation near the ground. A storm that is merely strong in the open air can cross that front and suddenly find everything it needs to produce a tornado. And the place where the atmosphere is most primed today is also the place with the most people in it. If you draw a line from Madison through Milwaukee to Chicago and widen it to include the Wisconsin-Illinois border, you have outlined the zone with the highest end potential today. This is where the significant tornado parameter peaks at 8 to 10. It is also one of the most densely populated stretches of the interior. And that combination, the most favorable atmosphere laid over the most people, is what concerns forecasters most. There is a second danger built into this corridor, and it is the repetition. Southern Wisconsin is looking at the morning line, and then a second round in the afternoon and evening. When that second round arrives, it does not arrive on fresh ground. It arrives on ground already saturated, on crews already deployed, on a population already tired and already wants to shelter. 2 rounds stacked on the same place can do more total harm than one larger round on fresh ground. There is a human cost to that repetition that does not show up on a radar image. Each time a warning sounds and a family takes shelter and then emerges to find their home intact, a little of their urgency drains away. By the 3rd or 4th warning in 2 days, the temptation is to assume the next one is also nothing. That assumption is how people get hurt in a pattern like this, because the warnings are not false alarms. The threat is real every time. It simply does not strike every house every time. The way through is to decide in advance to treat every warning across the entire stretch as the one that matters, because for someone in the area, it will be. Let me be clear about what a strong tornado means, because the word gets worn smooth with use. If storms today stay discrete, the potential is for an enhanced Fujita scale 2 or stronger, and forecasters have raised the possibility of an intense to violent tornado, which is enhanced Fujita 3 or above. An enhanced Fujita 2 tornado removes the roof of a well-built house, An enhanced Fujita 3 levels most of it and leaves only the interior room standing, which is why your safe place is an interior room on the lowest floor. The threat does not stop at the shore either. It is expected to ride east over Lake Michigan toward Grand Rapids and Kalamazoo as the evening goes on. And underneath all of it, there is a quieter problem. Before these storms even began, 26 flood warnings were already running on rivers across Missouri and Kansas, with Salt Creek near Barnard approaching its flood of record. The same storms, carrying the wind and the tornadoes, are dropping heavy rain on ground that is already full, which raises the flash flood risk well beyond what the rainfall totals alone would suggest. To understand why this corridor keeps getting hit, you have to look up at the pattern steering all of it. The reason today reloads instead of moving on is that the jet stream is locked into place. On a normal week, the jet flows steadily from west to east, carrying weather systems along with it, which is why most storms are a one-day affair. This week, the jet has buckled into a tall, slow-moving wave with a ridge of high pressure anchored over the eastern United States. That ridge forces the jet to dive south around its western flank, into the center of the country, and the whole pattern has stalled. A ridge like that reinforces itself, which is why it does not break easily. The sinking air beneath it clears the skies. The sun bakes the surface, the heat strengthens the dome, and the stronger dome pins the jet more firmly into its loop. So the same feature that is baking the eastern third of the country is the feature steering the storms into the middle of it. That is not a coincidence. It is one pattern showing two faces at once. This is the same ridge responsible for the heat wave gripping the east right now, with 31 heat advisories in effect, the kind of widespread heat we covered earlier this week. The storms fire along the rim of that dome, where the heat collides with the racing jet, and because the dome is not moving, that rim is not moving either. The storms keep firing along the same arc, over the same cities, day after day. The obvious question is how long a pattern like this lasts, and the honest answer is that these locked setups are stubborn. They do not drift away on a schedule. They sit and reinforce themselves until a disturbance strong enough to dislodge the ridge finally arrives, and that can take days or longer. The models can see the next several days with confidence and lose clarity beyond that, and nothing in the current data points to a quick end. That is the part that was not expected. A pattern this strong, this locked, this late in the season is not what the calendar prepares anyone for, and it is the reason the threat does not end when today's storms move east. That is the engine behind everything you're seeing today. The reason yesterday reloaded into today, and today reloads into tomorrow, is that the machine producing this weather is stuck in place, and it is the same machine producing the record heat to the east. Hold that, because it answers the question everyone is asking, which is when this finally ends. But before the outlook, there is one question about today itself that the forecasters cannot yet answer. The single biggest unknown about today is what kind of event it becomes, and the answer comes down to something forecasters call storm mode. The same loaded atmosphere can produce two very different catastrophes, and which one it chooses depends on whether the storms stay separate or merge into a line. If the storms merge quickly, the energy channels into a derecho. That is a single, fast-moving, bowing wall of thunderstorms that can stretch for hundreds of miles and produce widespread destructive winds along its leading edge as it races east. It is not a series of separate hits. It is one enormous traveling line that can hammer multiple states between morning and night. If instead the storms stay discrete, each one is free to organize its own rotating updraft, which meteorologists call a mesocyclone, and a storm that rotates is a storm that can drop a tornado. Rather than one wall of wind, you get a scattered field of individual rotating storms, each capable of a strong and potentially violent tornado. The footprint is smaller than a derecho, but the intensity at any single point is far worse. What you should take from that uncertainty is simple, because the preparation is the same either way. Whether today produces a wall of straight-line wind or field of tornadoes, the safe place does not change. An interior room on the lowest floor, away from windows. The warning may come as a severe thunderstorm warning for the wind, or a tornado warning for the rotation, and a severe thunderstorm warning today is not the minor alert people often treat it as. With winds that can reach 85 miles per hour, it describes a genuine threat to your roof and your safety. Take both seriously, act the moment either is issued for your location, and let the forecasters resolve the storm mode while you get to a safe place. The reason the experts cannot tell you which one is coming is that the choice turns on details too small to resolve in advance, a slight shift in where a boundary sets up, an hour's difference in timing, and the computer models genuinely disagree. That uncertainty is not a weakness in the forecast. It is an honest description of an atmosphere balanced on an edge, and whichever way it breaks today, it is still only one round in a pattern that is going to keep reloading. Whenever an outbreak like this one develops, a claim circulates online that the storms are being engineered or steered through cloud seeding, geoengineering, or facilities such as HARP. The data does not support it, and the reason is straightforward. A single supercell releases energy far beyond anything human technology can inject into the atmosphere or aim. Cloud seeding can coax a small amount of additional precipitation from a cloud that was already going to rain, and nothing more. HARP is an ionospheric research instrument that operates far above where weather forms. The driver here is a stuck jet stream, and that is the whole of it. Today is not the end of this. Tomorrow, the severe threat shifts east into the interior northeast with damaging winds, hail, and a lower tornado risk. On Saturday, a separate new storm system brings a fresh severe risk to Kansas, Missouri, Oklahoma, and Arkansas. The pattern is forecast to stay amplified into next week, and the single clearest signal that it is finally breaking will be the ridge over the east flattening and the jet stream relaxing back toward the north. Until that happens, assume the reloads continue. It is worth naming what a stretch like this represents beyond the next few hours. A pattern that delivers spring-grade severe weather in the middle of June, on consecutive days, over the same corridor, is the kind of event that tests the assumptions people carry about when the dangerous season is over. Whether this particular pattern breaks by the weekend or holds into next week, the lesson is the same. The calendar is a guide, not a guarantee, and the safest response to a locked pattern is steady attention rather than the assumption that summer means the threat has passed. There are a few practical things worth doing while the day is still ahead of you. Make sure you have more than one way to receive a warning, and that at least one of them can wake you, because the most dangerous storms today fired before sunrise. Decide on your safe place now, an interior room on the lowest floor, away from windows. And because this is a multi-day pattern and not a single storm, do not stand down after the first round passes. Reset, recharge, clear what could become debris, and stay aware across the whole stretch. The takeaway is simple. A locked atmospheric pattern has stalled over the country. Today is the day it peaks, and the open question is whether it produces a derecho or a tornado outbreak over one of the most populated corridors in the Midwest. The answer will come down to storm mode, and it will come fast. We will be tracking this throughout the day as it develops, and we will tell you what changes the moment it